In March 2026, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs stepped to the Pentagon podium and said something nobody in that room expected. The A-10 Thunderbolt II, the aircraft the Air Force had spent more than a decade trying to retire, with all 162 remaining jets lined up for the boneyard, was, in his words, now in the fight. Hunting fast attack boats in the Strait of Hormuz, not a stealth fighter, not an autonomous drone, the Warthog. The A-10 was born from a Cold War nightmare. The scenario was straightforward and terrifying. Thousands of Soviet tanks pouring through the Fulda Gap into Western Europe, and the U.S. Air Force needing something that could actually stop them. Fairchild Republic won the design competition in the early 1970s with an aircraft that was, frankly, ugly. Squat, twin-engine, straight-winged, and slow by jet standards. They named it the Thunderbolt II. The pilots called it the Warthog. The nickname fit considerably better. At the heart of the design sits the GAU-8A Avenger, a 30mm Gatling cannon so enormous that engineers essentially built it first and then designed the aircraft around it. It weighs as much as a loaded Volkswagen Beetle. It fires nearly 3,900 rounds per minute. The recoil is powerful enough to physically slow the aircraft when it fires. To protect the pilot, the cockpit was wrapped in a titanium shell capable of surviving direct hits from ground fire. Fuel cells are self-sealing. Hydraulics have manual backups. Everything about this aircraft delivers the same message. Built to absorb punishment and keep flying, and it was built to linger. Its top speed of 420 miles per hour sounds like a limitation until you understand what it actually means. Slow means it can loiter over a battlefield for hours, watching, circling, waiting. When troops on the ground called for air support, they did not want a jet that shrieked overhead and vanished in 30 seconds. They wanted something that stayed. That sound the cannon makes when it fires? It has a name. You know it. The Gulf War made the Warthog famous. In 1991, A-10s flew more than 8,100 combat sorties, destroying over 900 Iraqi tanks, 2,000 military vehicles, and 1,200 artillery pieces. Through Iraq and Afghanistan, stories accumulated of Warthogs absorbing catastrophic battle damage. Engines destroyed, control surfaces gone, fuselage riddled with holes, and still returning to base. By the mid-2000s, the A-10C upgrade added precision targeting pods, GPS-guided weapons, and digital cockpit systems. The old aircraft learned new tricks. But the Air Force had already made up its mind. Around 2012, the retirement push began in earnest. The arguments were not without merit. The A-10 costs between $11,000 and $17,000 per flight hour to operate, and it was designed well before modern air defense systems existed. The F-35 was positioned as its successor for the close air support mission. Congress remained unconvinced. Year after year, retirement proposals were blocked. The FY 2026 budget included $57 million to retire all remaining Warthogs. The 2026 National Defense Authorization Act blocked that plan as well. Critics noted, with some persistence, that the F-35 runs between $44,000 and $80,000 per flight hour. The A-10 cannot do everything. But what it does at a fraction of the cost. Then came Operation Epic Fury. When conflict with Iran escalated in early 2026, a very specific problem appeared in the Strait of Hormuz, a waterway through which roughly 20% of the world's oil passes daily. Iranian Revolutionary Guard fast attack craft were threatening freedom of navigation. Fourth and fifth generation fighters had already devastated Iran's fixed infrastructure. But small, fast-moving watercraft are an entirely different problem. They require something that can loiter, identify, and strike with precision and patience. Armed with AGM-65 Maverick missiles and laser-guided rockets, the A-10 proved ideal. Defense One, describing advanced multi-role jets against cheap speedboats as expensive and unsustainable. Air and Space Forces magazine put it plainly. The Air Force's newest bomb and its oldest attack jet were striking targets in the same theater simultaneously. The Tanks Buster was hunting boats, and it was remarkably good at it. There is a pattern here worth noting. Military institutions are naturally drawn toward the future, toward stealth, speed, and complexity. Those things matter enormously. But war has a persistent habit of producing exactly the kind of messy, close, practical problems that no future of war briefing fully anticipated. The A-10 may finally reach its official retirement by 2029. This conflict may prove to be one of its last major chapters, or, as history has suggested several times before, merely another interruption in a very long farewell. What the Warthog story ultimately tells us is this: a machine so precisely engineered for one brutal, unglamorous job can outlast decades of doubt simply by remaining useful. Every generation finds a reason to declare it obsolete, and every few years, the world finds a way to need it again. For those of us of a certain age, there is something rather reassuring in that. Old does not always mean finished. Sometimes it just means the future has not quite caught up yet.